and I'm bringing hell with me.
Yeah.
The declaration of the gospel in the earth is like, I mean, it speaks to people, but it's also speaking to death. And we're telling death that God's coming, and he's bringing hell with him, right? And not hell necessarily in the accurate biblical term, but God is a consuming fire. His love is a consuming fire. And when he comes in the full manifestation of his glory and his love with nothing tempering it, it's going to consume death.
Amen.
Right? It's going to consume death. And death will be no more. Right? And it's like the gospel is the declaration in the earth of let there be light. And when light manifests, it swallows darkness.
Hallelujah.
Right? And so, man, the declaration of the gospel is actually, I mean, even though we may say all these different kinds of words and say all these different kinds of things, God encapsulated the entirety of the word when he said, let there be light. Right? That was the releasing of the word that the gospel is the declaration of. And so every time we're declaring the gospel in some form or fashion, it's the declaration in the earth of let there be light. Right? It's the calling forth of light, of people out of the darkness into the light, where we can reveal the glorious light of the sun in people, and they can see themselves in the face of Jesus. Then they begin to see the Father and how the Father has always been their Father, and not just any kind of a Father, but a specific kind of a Father, a Father that can only be good to you, that can only love you, that can only care for your heart, that can only save you from what suffers you, what causes you suffering. And we see that in the face of Jesus, and then people are called forth out of the darkness into the light.
Amen.
The glorious light of the sun.
Yeah.
That's what Paul talked about when he said, we, having the same spirit of faith as God had, when he said, let there be light. We are calling forth people out of the darkness into the light by revealing the sun in them. Right? So that they can begin to know themselves as they've always been known by God.
Right.
And they can begin to know God as Abba. Right? And then they have the same intimacy with the Father that Jesus had with the Father. And they find their hearts set free from fear. And they find their hearts filled with the love of God, man. And then they find a boldness in this earth to just attack life.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's like, if God be for me, who can be against me? If God be for me, what can be against me? Listen, those aren't just vain words. I know so long we've lived from the place where we tried to say those words to convince ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But what
Yeah.
can happen is, man, is when we release the spirit of faith and we call forth people out of the darkness into the light, that becomes born in them. Where they're not saying it by trying to tell people to believe, they're living it. Right? If God be for me, what can be against me? Right? And then you're filled with a strength and a boldness and a confidence, and you just attack life. Not from the foundation of trying to exalt yourself or to prove yourself or to accomplish goals or any of that kind of stuff, but just from the foundation of you're filled with a holy vigor, just a passion for something, and you're just about it like gangbusters.
No fear.
Right?
Yeah.
Now listen, that doesn't mean it's bad to have goals or anything like that. I'm just talking about from a foundation. Right?